Happening.
Wow.
There it is.
It is happening.
It is happening. This is what happens when we connect via our AOL account. Good morning. My name is Sam Sifton. I'm the food editor of the New York Times, and I'm joined today for this live Facebook chat with Deborah Needleman, editor-in-chief of T Magazine. T Magazine, perhaps we should introduce T Magazine to the world. Deborah, tell us what
T Magazine is a magazine that comes in your New York Times, kind of monthly, and it's a style magazine that's been around for 10 or 11 years. And we cover food, travel, fashion, design, architecture, things like that.
And it's absolutely beautiful, a benefit of a print subscription to the New York Times. I'm the food editor of the New York Times, which means I don't cover fashion, as you can tell by looking at me. But I do cover food, and I run both what we call the Food Report here at the Times, but also a website and app called Cooking, which you can find at nytcooking.com, which is a compendium of our, now almost 18,000 recipes going back to 1982, along with a recipe box and all kinds of tools and functionality that make it easier for you to cook delicious food. I hope the recipes are good. Do you use it?
It's amazing. And in fact, this sounds like a bit of an infomercial, but when I have to go out at night, which I do tonight, I go home and make the hamburgers, which, as you know,
Holler.
the best hamburger ever, ever, ever. And then I can leave the children guilt-free because they've had the best burger.
You got to go check out this burger recipe. If you go to nytcooking.com and search for my name, Sam Sifton, and burgers, you'll get a couple different versions coming up. One is a smash burger, a kind of flat diner-style burger, which is the burger I prefer in my family. The other one is a little bit thicker, like a pub-style
That's our burger.
You like the pub-style one. My kids go mad for the smash burger, which, weirdly, patties per burger,
right.
But I'm using less meat than I would ordinarily with
true.
a big meatloaf burger, so I'm pretty into it.
Are we here talking about weather?
Oh my goodness, that's what we came to discuss. We could talk about food all day and gardening as well and fashion, but we thought we would talk today a little bit about the weather because it is uncharacteristically chilly for the season outside. And to do so, I thought I would introduce another benefit of a print subscription, the front page of the New York Times.
We should be getting paid more here.
I think so. I'm going to just get up and come around here and see if I can show the front page of the paper. And up here in the corner where it says late edition, you will see something that is known in our business as the weather ear. Now, the weather ear tells us what today, Deborah?
This is great. I feel like we're like Ron Burgundy or like
Yeah,
Steve Carell
exactly right.
Where's our green screen?
Yeah.
Today is mostly sunny, breezy, cold, high around 41.
Wow. Well, that means we're going to 41. It was in the mid-20s when I left.
Okay, but this is a newspaper and the weather changes by the second now.
It does, and that is a benefit of our online package at nytimes.com. But what I really, really enjoy, this does sound like an infomercial, and I apologize for it, but I also believe it really devoutly. One of the cool things about getting the paper is, because one of my kids, this is the first thing they read because it affects what they wear to school. Now, my kids, they might go with the basic outfit or they might go with the enhanced one, depending on the weather. But I really am curious to ask you, and we've got a lot more weather stuff to talk about because there's a cool whole weather page to talk about. But the role of weather and fashion is one I'm fascinated in.
It is kind of fascinating. I mean, one, because I feel like this week it was, I was upstate on vacation and it was 70 degrees one day and then it snowed the next day. So first of all, I was so excited that you asked me to come talk to you that I said yes, even though I'm the worst person to talk about weather. But
we are neither of us meteorologists.
Because I was just so excited to come start my day having a chat with you. Because I am someone who, when I read that it's 41, I sort of think, what does that mean? Do I need a coat? Do I need a hat? So basically, I read this every morning and then I look out the window and see what people are wearing. But fashion is set up on this crazy system that makes no sense anymore now that the weather is so unpredictable. there's sort of spring, summer, and then there's fall, winter. And so when we were but it's every season, every day, somewhere around the world. And fashion is a global business. So when they show sort of spring clothes, this is allegedly almost springtime, but it's winter.
So wait, when do they show the spring
It's nuts.
collections?
The whole thing is so nuts. So the spring collections are shown in the fall, and then they come out when it's still, into the stores when it's still winter. So the whole system is sort of kind of backwards and broken, and I don't know if you've ever tried to buy a winter coat in December, but you kind of can't, or a bathing suit in June at a department store. It's almost impossible. But so the whole thing is kind of...
Well, first of all, that's patently false. For me,
Yeah, okay, if you go
it's
to...
really
if you go
easy to go to the Gap and get
Okay.
a swimming suit in spring.
Kind
But
of.
I understand.
Kind of. I mean, I thought I'd start with the fashion faux pas. So it's cold out,
Right?
and I thought I'd wear white jeans because they say,
It's spring.
well, and also they say you're not supposed to, maybe you don't even know this rule to be broken.
Memorial Day?
Yes, Memorial Day to Labor Day. So it's basically you're meant to be able to wear them from end of May till September. The point being that the weather is berserk, and so people just have to wear what's appropriate and pretty much wear the same clothes all year round and just layer them up. I mean, these are as warm as any
Regular jeans.
regular jeans.
Or blue jeans.
As blue jeans. And it was sunny today, and so I thought, let's wear some crisp white jeans. Let's
Okay,
do a fashion faux pas.
I like it.
But-
So breaking the rules can be fashionable as well. So you wear
You
white
have to break
jeans,
the rule.
which are sort of summery.
Right.
But then you wear a turtleneck sweater
Exactly.
because it's freaking cold outside, and then that
Right.
that
I mean,
works.
so the fashion system is built to make people buy things all the time.
Got it.
And
Whereas the newspaper industry is designed to have editors dressed
Wait, the
exactly
same?
the same way. This
All-
could be, if I had longer hair, despite my bald head, it could be the 70s,
Wait,
or
no,
a big beard.
you've
in
been
the
wearing
70s.
basically that outfit
Since 7th grade.
and since 7th grade, and basically all times of the year.
Yeah.
So that's really chic. That's what we call in the fashion industry a uniform.
I
And
love
it's
a
very
uniform.
chic.
I will tell you, Deborah, if I could wear a jumpsuit to work that just said Sam, be
Wait, you
perfect
don't know-
with a cool tee.
Okay, so what you don't know is this is my little secret, is I bought a jumpsuit recently in California at this store called Current Elliott. And it's a blue indigo jumpsuit, and I decided this is the only thing I ever want to wear. And so I bought 4 more, and I wear it to garden, I wear it on the weekend, I put some heels on it, take it out to dinner.
That's
No, it's the
fantastic.
best thing. It's the
That
best
is
thing.
fantastic.
So I think,
You know, you can, if you have fashion questions, you can ask them of Deborah
or
right
maybe
now.
you wouldn't want to because
Or-
she's wearing a jumpsuit and white pants.
I think that would just be, that would be great. We are taking questions if you have any. And I can promise you that our exploits in Facebook Live are going to become much more sophisticated over time.
Do you think
And
this isn't sophisticated?
I think we are deeply sophisticated, but I think there's going to be like lasers and stuff
Okay.
in subsequent editions of this broadcast. And you can subscribe to the broadcast up in the corner there of your screen where it says subscribe. You hit that button. Should we return to the paper for a minute?
Please, so let's do the weather.
We are going to do the weather, but I just
Oh,
want to
sorry.
point out what edition of the New York Times we're looking at. Not in a sort of hostage state. You can see it's today's paper, but in the sense that this is the late edition of the paper. This came out later than our first edition.
So there's 2 editions?
Pretty simple. At its base, there are 2 editions, but we can go much further than that. And I want to show, again, up close, I want to show right here, if you can see it, those dots that exist between the volume number and the number, as it were. And there are 3 there. We start our printing process every day with 4 dots for the early edition, for the first edition. And then for the late edition, we go down 1 dot. And presumably...
This is
for-
fascinating. I feel like I should have known this, which I don't.
This was covered in orientation, Deborah.
Oh. I played a little bit of hooky.
Yeah, so it moves down. And in fact, in the old days, pre-internet, when we would really run things super late, you would get down to no dots, and then apparently there were other symbols what the kids call emoji, that would indicate that it had gone even later. But this is a plain
That's
old...
amazing.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's super cool.
All right.
So we actually have a question from a viewer. I don't want to interrupt necessarily, but it's a really good question.
We're so excited there's a viewer.
Mom?
So the question is, as a chef, I'm always experimenting. What is the most egregious example of experimentation gone wrong you've come across?
Oh, that is great. I had it should have been good. I had a foie gras soup dumpling at a restaurant in the mid-50s a couple of years ago, where it kind of tasted like an abscess a little bit. The foie gras, as you know, or as you may not know, the chef knows, but foie gras, it sort of there's so much fat in it. It melts under heat, and so it sort of turned into this foie gras soup, but it was completely unadulterated. And while I love foie gras and I love fat,
Oh, God.
the mouthful of fat inside the dumpling seemed to me to be egregious experimentation.
Seems like almost hostile. Like
Yeah,
going
it
down
was a
in-
little rough. I think that is an executable dish, and I think at Nisa there's a version of it, a foie gras soup dumpling that works pretty well. At this place, it did not work well. It was grim. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was dining with a colleague of ours, Peter Latman, who looks a little bit like Matthew Broderick. And
He does.
I look a little bit like Sam Sifton, and there were a few people who, over the course of my restaurant reviewing career, who kind of made me or identified me, because I've dressed the same way since 7th grade, which led me on occasion to dress
Just
differently.
own that. It's chic.
Oh, I
Just
own
saying.
it. But as a restaurant critic, occasionally you want to put
Right,
on like a
right.
black dress shirt and just become an Irish immigrant. Like nobody knows who you are. So this waiter comes over at this weird restaurant and says, "I know who you are," to the table. And I instantly thought, this guy is breaking the sort of social contract of restaurant criticism, like even if he does know. And then I realized he's saying it to Latman because he thinks that Latman is Matthew Broderick. And it was great. We owned it. We owned that meal. It was not a good meal, and it included that failed dumpling.
Okay, since we're going off on tangents, just really quickly, have you watched Better Call Saul?
That's on, and literally, because I finished
On your
House
list.
of Cards last night.
We are really jumping around.
So I finished House of Cards last night, and Better Call Saul popped up, so I'm very excited about it. I
But
think
there's this hilarious moment that reminds me of Matthew Broderick, where he wakes up after a drunken night in some woman's house, and she looks at him and she says, "You're not Kevin Costner." He looks quite like Kevin
He
Costner.
does,
Bob Odenkirk.
yeah.
I actually want to ask a follow-up question to that.
Same guy?
No, I want to ask this question.
Oh, okay.
So that was the worst experimentation gone wrong. What's the best experimentation gone right?
Yeah,
Like, what do you think is the best experimentation with
Okay.
food that someone has done?
It's the interesting thing about haute cuisine or fancy food or what have you is that it isn't really experimentation. If you're going to put it on the menu and charge a lot of money for it, you got to be pretty certain, at the high levels anyway, that it works. So to cast my memory backward, I remember that, and this is foie gras related as well, I remember when David Chang at the Momofuku restaurant, Sambar, in the early days, would freeze a block of foie gras, so going in the absolute opposite direction, and then shave it like snow onto a dish. And I thought,
That's amazing.
that's pretty cool, because anyone who's tasted, do you guys remember snow before global warming? when snow would fall and you'd get it in your mouth and it would melt in a particular way, the foie gras did the same thing, as if it were snow. And I thought that was pretty special.
Like when you stuck your tongue out for the snow to fall on.
Yeah, and it would melt in a particular way that is different from, say, ice shavings or what
That's
have you. It's
super
so
cool.
light.
But don't you think sometimes, like when I think about what's the only pasta, if I could only have one pasta sauce,
Oof.
it's sort of pomodoro. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
the least experimental and most basic is often
Yeah,
like a great just tomato sauce.
this is the joy of Italian cuisine. For years, people said it wasn't a cuisine because it was just
so simple.
so simple. But there is no question that you're right, that a perfect tomato and a perfect pomodoro is exquisite. There's no reason to experiment with that. I'll put some store anise in it.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
please don't do that.
You don't need those carrots and onions, just a little garlic.
So we have another question from Julie Blonde, I'm not sure how to say her last name, but How many meals a week do you review? And isn't it difficult to keep from judging them against one another?
That's an interesting question, Julie, and thank you. I'm going to ask our growing audience. I hope it's a growing audience.
All three of you.
You gotta get off the kid for after this. We gotta get some fashion questions here. It's springtime, and we gotta talk about the weather. But to answer your question, as restaurant critic, and I am not the restaurant critic now. Pete Wells is the restaurant critic, and he exists in his costume and won't be appearing on Facebook Live anytime soon. But as restaurant critic, both I and Pete now, and Frank
You before
Bruni
you.
before me, and all we generally eat out on the neighborhood of 6 to 7 times a week, 5, 6 nights, plus a couple lunches or breakfasts along the way. And of course, we're constantly evaluating restaurants against one another and against themselves. It would be an error to think that we go into a restaurant, say at TGI Fridays, and experience it and then go home and file a review. No, for a New York Times restaurant review, we attend the restaurant 3, maybe 4, a minimum of 3 times, maybe 4 times or more if we're really trying to figure out what the narrative of the restaurant is.
But if you're at a TGI Fridays 3 or 4 times one week, and
That's a
then you
bad
go
week.
to Per Se, let's maybe not use Per Se, a fancy
Google it.
restaurant, how are you not comparing those two?
It's really important not to go to TGI Fridays 4 times in a week and to,
A fancy.
Les Panas or whatever, 4 times in another week. The goal is to build a schedule for yourself that sees you going up and down the price point scale, up and down, I hope not up and down the quality scale. I believe, as most restaurant critics believe, every time you go into the restaurant, it's going to be great.
Mhm.
That's what makes our disappointment so palpable when it's not. But you hope that you're going to have a good meal. But it is very difficult to have 3 heavy French meals in a row, just as it's very difficult to have 3 great omakase Japanese meals in a row. And always the drumbeat in the background. Wouldn't it be great just to have chicken wings and cold beer?
Just to
So
stay
we-
home and order a pizza.
We want to change gears a little bit to fashion now.
They
Katie,
really listen to you out there in Facebook land.
Thank you, folks. I hope you're subscribing. Upper corner, right there.
Katie wants to know, Deborah, if you could wear only one outfit, what would that outfit be?
Well, I think it is this jumpsuit we just talked about. I've become kind of obsessed with the idea of a uniform and simplicity. So right now it's a zip-up jumpsuit that you can wear a turtleneck under when it's cold and sandals with when it's warm. That's pretty much where I am right now.
Can we talk about shoes for a minute?
Sure.
I'm fascinated in the restaurant world that I cover. You see a lot of men in clogs. Clogs is
Oh yeah, well like Crocs and clogs.
well, Crocs for your batalis, but
Yeah.
but the dance clog
Yeah.
is a big kitchen shoe item,
Yeah.
which I think would pair well with a jumpsuit.
Yeah, I think it would actually.
It could go pretty nicely. But I'm not. I've experimented with the clog, but that's a tough look in a newsroom.
I think part of fashion is knowing that really what fashion comes down to is style, and then it really is about personal choice. So it's about figuring out who you are, what looks good on you, what works for your life. I mean, if you're just sort of a fashion victim, yes, then you turn up in clogs one day and with your preppy outfit, and it looks kind of silly.
Yeah,
but
do you think that it does? And there's probably a reason for it.
I think because I'm not
are you
sure
getting
you can
divorced?
own. Yeah, is it's so much cheaper than a sports car, a pair of clogs. But let's see, how could you experiment? Look at your socks are cute.
Well, I'm going to bring up the sock now.
Really cute.
There we go.
That's really cute.
I'm going with a bright sock, and of course
a good Stan
a
Smith.
Stan Smith. Well, it's like a classic preppy sneaker, but you're in blue suede.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know why I just can't. I'm really all for people experimenting, and yet I just can't see you rocking
Wearing
the clog.
Yeah, I can't either. I just think it's sort of fascinating, and
Yeah.
yet with the chili pepper, chef pants and the white chef's
Yeah.
coat, Those guys are on clogs.
Yeah.
It's pretty
No, I
interesting.
can't even see it for you on the weekend.
So we actually have another question from Rachel Long. She says, "What is Deborah? What is your opinion on op shopping and clothes swapping / suitcase rummage events that help minimize the growing amount of discarded clothing in dumps?"
Well, first of all, she's just taught me a word, op shopping, which
didn't
I
know
have
what that was
no
either.
idea what that is.
Well, I'll tell you.
But I like the,
I'll tell you, and then
Okay.
throw to you to explain it, because you do know what it is. You just haven't run across
The term.
word or the term. So in lots of communities, you'll go to the thrift store.
yes.
In some communities, and this is true on Long Island and probably in other parts of the nation as well, they're called opportunity shops, or the
yes,
op shop.
of course.
So
Okay.
you go to the op shop and you find a cool T-shirt or a frayed button down, and off you go to the races.
I mean, how can you be against that? I think anything that's keeping things from a landfill is amazing. And I think part of fashion and shopping is one makes mistakes all the time. And so you might have things in your closet that are perfectly good, just you realize they're not right for you, or you haven't taken them out in 3 years and it's time to get rid of them. And the best thing to do is if you can find someone who likes it. So, I mean, I have heard of those things. I've never done it, although I think it's amazing, where a bunch of women get together, bring their kind of still good, but clothes they're not wearing, and exchange them. I mean, it's sort of an amazing, fantastic thing.
Yeah, you
Who
can
can be
do
against
it,
that?
You can do it with
Except
me and
maybe the
be
fashion
against it.
industry.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fashion industry would be against it.
And another question for you, Deborah. How influential are the Pantone colors this year the Pantone colors of the year when it comes to fashion trends?
It's a good question, but it just, as an editor, it's something I never look at. And I think people that are actually creating the trends are ahead of the people who are predicting the trends, usually, in my opinion. So I've never really looked at, like, are those Pantone I just don't think people operate like that in the real world.
Folks, let me just hold on 1 minute. One of the things about fashion that they often say is like it blows a whistle that certain people cannot hear.
Yes, for
And
sure.
I rather suspect that the term Pantone colors of the year is a whistle that some don't hear. They don't know what that is.
Okay, so first
Can
of
you
all,
explain that?
Pantone is, I should know this better, but it's an entire, it's a way of categorizing colors that art directors and designers use. So when we pick out the sort of the T logo every month in different colors, it'll be like Pantone red number 305 or something. And so every year, my guess it would be the Pantone Association.
I like to think of it as the Pantone family. Mr. Pantone makes a decision.
Someone says, either a trend forecaster, I'm not sure who does it, but they pick two Pantone color tones and say, this is, this year it's brown and pink or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, has anyone ever really been driven by, this is my pink year, or I don't know. I don't get it. But I probably shouldn't say that.
Well, I want to shift back into food.
I think
'cause
people
this-
should stop paying attention to trends so much.
That seems fair.
I mean, yeah.
I believe it.
One more question?
One more question.
All right,
then
one
we're
more
gonna wrap
question. This
up.
is an interesting question from abroad. This is for you, Sam.
Okay.
I'm a well-trained chef from South Korea. I have many friends from Western countries, and I'd like to share our traditional food with them, but I have no idea what food Western countries like Americans like to eat when they come to foreign countries. Do you think that something that people should seek out?
I think you should cook the cuisine of South Korea, and you should cook your traditional food as best you can, and I think that that's going to bring them running. The American desire for authenticity, whether that is a true authenticity or more often a bogus authenticity, is immense. And the notion that I would travel to South Korea to eat a well-trained South Korean chef's take on meatloaf or hamburgers or a niçoise salad, let's start with just great bulgogi or bibimbap,
think it's totally true.
which you can, of course, make your own. I hope will make your own and make better. But the history of host countries chasing tourist tastes. It doesn't work that way. It works the other way
Particularly
around.
in such a like globalized world where you
Yeah.
can get anything anywhere. The idea of going somewhere and having something that you can't have here is so.
Executed as best as
Yeah,
it can be
it's so
in the
desirable.
country you're visiting is absolutely the best thing. So that brings us, I think, we didn't talk much about weather. I think that brings us to the end of this live Facebook talk or event with the New York Times. We urge you to subscribe by pressing that subscribe button up in the corner, and we'll be back with lots of other journalists from the New York Times talking about serious, weighty measures as we did, and occasionally frivolous ones like world event. I kid. You're gonna see serious people here as well. We're here to talk about food and fashion. There's much else at the New York
We
Times.
have to figure out how food and fashion intersect more. I mean, food and fashion don't have a great relationship.
I know. I tried with the clogs.
Yeah, no, but I'm and also like fashion people traditionally don't eat a lot of food.
No, this is one of the things about reviewing restaurants that are popular in the fashion world. A lot of fries and salad.
Yeah.
That's
It's really
what that's
so
all
true.
about. And bottle service. See you guys later. Thanks very
Thanks,
much for
Sam.
watching. Thank you, Deborah.
That was fun.